Deep in the heart of rural El Salvador, far from the bustling cities and tourist beaches, a colossal structure of concrete and steel dominates the landscape. It's a sight both awe-inspiring and intimidating, a fortress that seems to have erupted from the earth itself, casting a long shadow over the fields and villages that surround it. This is the Center for the Confinement of Terrorism, or CEcot, a name that echoes with authority and fear. The entrance is guarded day and night by heavily armed soldiers, a constant reminder that this is no ordinary facility. CEcot is the largest prison in the Americas, a sprawling complex designed to hold up to 40,000 inmates. Its vast cell blocks and towering walls are built to contain the most dangerous individuals in the country, those accused of being the masterminds and foot soldiers of El Salvador's notorious gangs. For decades, gangs like MS-13 and Barrio 18 ruled the streets with violence and fear. Their graffiti marked entire neighborhoods as their territory, and their brutal tactics earned El Salvador the grim title of murder capital of the world. Families lived in constant fear, and entire communities were held hostage by the threat of extortion, kidnapping, and murder. Determined to end this reign of terror, President Nayib Bukele launched an unprecedented crackdown. CEcot became the centerpiece of his iron-fisted war on crime, a symbol of his promise to restore order at any cost. Here, rehabilitation is not the goal. Instead, the focus is on absolute containment, locking away thousands with little hope of release. For many Salvadorans, CEcot represents a turning point. It's seen as a beacon of hope, a fortress that finally stands between ordinary people and the gangs that once terrorized them. Some families gather outside its walls, praying for peace and a safer future for their children. But not everyone sees CEcot as a solution. Human rights groups warn that inside these walls, due process and basic dignity are often ignored. Reports of overcrowding, harsh treatment, and indefinite detention have sparked outrage both in El Salvador and abroad. The prison's severe conditions and the mass incarceration of thousands have ignited a fierce global debate. Is this the necessary price for peace and security, or has the country gone too far in its quest to eradicate crime? International observers and journalists flock to the site, seeking answers and accountability. CEcot stands as a stark reminder of the choices societies make when faced with violence and chaos. It forces us to confront a difficult question: can security ever truly justify such extreme measures, or does the cost to human rights outweigh the promise of peace? CEcot's story begins with President Nayib Bukele, a leader who has become one of the most polarizing figures in Latin America. Young, media-savvy, and unafraid of controversy, Bukele swept into office on a wave of public frustration and hope for change. He rose to power promising to end El Salvador's reign of gang violence, a crisis that had plagued the country for decades and left ordinary citizens living in constant fear. For years, gangs ruled neighborhoods, extorted businesses, and committed murders with impunity. Their influence reached deep into daily life, making even simple acts like walking to school or opening a shop dangerous. Bukele's solution was radical: a full-scale war on gangs, anchored by the construction of CEcot, a mega-prison built in just 7 months. The speed and scale of the project stunned the nation and the world. Unlike traditional prisons, CEcot was designed not for rehabilitation, but to permanently remove tens of thousands of gang members from society. Its purpose was clear: to break the cycle of violence by locking away those deemed most dangerous. Previous prisons were corrupt and overcrowded, often serving as gang headquarters where leaders continued to orchestrate crimes from behind bars. The old system had failed to protect the public. CEcot was engineered to sever all outside communication, isolating inmates completely. Advanced surveillance and strict controls aimed to ensure that no orders could leave its walls. The message was unmistakable: El Salvador would use overwhelming force to reclaim its streets, deploying police and military in unprecedented numbers to back up the new policy. Bukele's approach marked a new era, one where the state would do whatever it took to restore order, even if it meant bending or breaking the old rules. For supporters, CEcot is a promise kept, a symbol of hope and a safer future where families can walk the streets without fear and businesses can thrive. For critics, it's a warning of unchecked power, raising concerns about human rights abuses, due process, and the long-term consequences of such harsh measures. The prison stands as the physical embodiment of Bukele's iron fist justice, a towering reminder of the lengths one leader will go to in the name of security, and the deep divisions his methods have left behind. CEcot is the centerpiece of El Salvador's sweeping state of exception, declared after a deadly surge in gang violence. Constitutional rights were suspended, giving police and soldiers power to arrest anyone suspected of gang ties, sometimes based on little more than a tattoo or a tip. Tens of thousands were swept up in mass raids, sending the prison population soaring to the highest rate in the world. Nearly 2% of Salvadorans found themselves behind bars. While many cheered the crackdown, human rights groups warned of widespread abuse and wrongful arrests. Families claimed innocent loved ones were caught in the dragnet, denied due process. CEcot became the final stop for those deemed most dangerous, its existence inseparable from the mass arrests. Together, the state of exception and CEcot transformed El Salvador's approach to crime, at a steep cost to civil liberties. CEcot is engineered for total isolation and control. Surrounded by electrified fences and 19 watchtowers, the prison is a fortress monitored by a web of cameras. A 1.5-mile dead zone blocks all cell signals, cutting off inmates from the outside world. No family visits, no phone calls, no letters. Legal proceedings happen via mass video calls, often without lawyers. Inside, guards in tactical gear enforce strict discipline. Prisoners are shackled, moved in silence, and denied any chance to communicate. Medical care is handled inside the prison. No one leaves, not even for emergencies. Every aspect is designed to break gang influence and prevent escape. CEcot is more than a prison, it's a black hole swallowing the thread of gang violence. The government's message is clear: once inside, there is no return. Life inside CEcot is a relentless cycle of deprivation, where every day blurs into the next under the weight of constant surveillance and control. The environment is designed to strip away hope, individuality, and even the basic comforts that most people take for granted. Prisoners are packed 80 to 100 per cell, forced to sleep on cold bare metal slabs with no mattresses or pillows. The overcrowding is suffocating, leaving little room to move or even stretch out. Privacy is non-existent, and the constant noise makes rest nearly impossible. Harsh fluorescent lights stay on 24/7, robbing inmates of darkness and disrupting their natural sleep cycles. The unending brightness becomes a form of psychological torment, making it difficult to find peace or even a moment of true rest. Inmates spend 23.5 hours each day locked in their cramped cells, with only 30 minutes allowed in a barren concrete yard under the watchful eyes of armed guards. Even this brief time outside offers no real freedom, just a different kind of confinement. There are no books, no work, and no activities to occupy the mind. Every effort is made to break social bonds and prevent any form of gang organization. The monotony and isolation are crushing, leaving inmates with nothing but their thoughts and the endless passing of time. Sanitation is dire. 2 open toilets and a single basin serve up to 100 men. The stench and lack of privacy add to the daily misery, and disease spreads easily in such unsanitary, crowded conditions. Food is basic and repetitive, delivered through steel doors with no human interaction. Meals are often cold and lack nutrition, serving only to keep inmates alive, not healthy. New arrivals are stripped, shaved, and forced to kneel in silence, a ritual of humiliation and control that marks the beginning of their time inside. This process is meant to break spirits and enforce submission from the very start. Individuality is erased. Prisoners become faceless numbers in a system designed to crush resistance and enforce absolute obedience. Uniforms, shaved heads, and strict routines ensure that no one stands out. For many, CEcot is a living hell with no hope of escape. The relentless routine, deprivation, and psychological pressure leave inmates feeling forgotten by the outside world, trapped in a place where survival is the only goal. CEcot's scale is staggering. Built for 40,000, it already holds over 20,000 inmates, more than many towns. Since the state of exception, nearly 87,000 people have been arrested, pushing El Salvador's incarceration rate to the world's highest. Over 350 deaths in custody have been reported, with evidence of violence and neglect. The prison system costs $200 million a year, with international deals, like U.S. payments for deported gang members, helping foot the bill. CEcot is now part of a regional strategy against transnational gangs. Despite international criticism, Bukele's approval remains sky-high, over 90%. For Salvadorans, the numbers that matter are falling homicide rates and safer streets. The country has transformed from one of the world's most dangerous to one of the safest in the region. For many, CEcot's existence is a necessary price for peace. Behind CEcot's walls, reports of torture and abuse are widespread. Human Rights Watch and others have documented beatings, electric shocks, and punishment cells where inmates are left without food or water. Severe overcrowding means some prisoners sleep standing up, and medical care is often denied. Thousands of innocent people, including children, have been swept up in the crackdown, many on flimsy evidence. Over 3,000 minors have been detained, some subjected to the same harsh treatment as adults. In 2025, a new law allowed children as young as 12 to be tried as adults and sent to CEcot. Critics say this violates international law and creates new victims in the name of security. The cost of safety for many is paid in human suffering. CEcot has split public opinion, heroic fortress to some, human rights disaster to others. For most Salvadorans, it's a miracle, the end of fear, the return of safe streets, and long overdue justice. Supporters argue that the rights of criminals can't outweigh the right to live in peace. But critics warn that mass arrests, torture, and the abandonment of due process are signs of creeping authoritarianism. They fear that sacrificing justice for security will only breed future violence. The debate over CEcot is about more than a prison, it's about the soul of a nation. Can true peace be built on fear and repression, or does safety demand hard choices no matter the cost? CEcot is the defining symbol of El Salvador's transformation. A fortress that broke the gangs, but at a steep price. For millions, it's the reason they finally feel safe. For others, it's a monument to lost rights and suffering. The prison's legacy is double-edged. Liberation for some, repression for others. Internationally, CEcot is now a model for hardline security, studied by leaders facing their own crime crises. But it's also a warning: how quickly a nation can trade liberty for order. As El Salvador moves forward, it must reckon with the consequences of its choices. The concrete walls of CEcot hold not just prisoners, but the nation's future, forever shaped by the brutal methods used to win its war on crime.